FastCast books. So after finishing Ready Player One, I was sort of casting about for another book to read. I've occasionally read some non-fiction. I was looking for another piece of science fiction because it's been a while since I've read good science fiction novel. There's one that I remember some people talking about called Seveneves. I actually thought it was Seveneves. It's like a palindrome. But this is by Neal Stephenson, who is, I guess, one of the more well-known science fiction authors these days. I had never read anything of his before. And there's going to be some mild spoilers for the book here, which I don't think is really spoilery if you know anything about the book. The setup is this. Something called the Agent shows up one day and shatters the moon. So there's these 7 big chunks of the moon that start banging into each other and breaking off into smaller and smaller pieces. And the scientists of the Earth discover this is going to lead to something called the hard rain, where these chunks of the moon are going to begin raining down on the Earth, and it's going to be so often and so sustained that the Earth's surface is basically going to become unlivable for like 4,000 or 5,000 years. The novel immediately swings into trying to figure out how humanity can preserve their heritage. How are we going to get as many people into orbit as possible to make sure that humanity doesn't die, because the surface will be completely unlivable. Like, the atmosphere will be on fire for 3,000 to 4,000 to 5,000 years. The first 3/4 of the book is sort of tasked with getting as many people into orbit as possible. One thing that I guess Neal Stephenson is really known for is being meticulous in the details. I think this would probably qualify as hard science fiction, because he does all the work to figure out, you know, the orbital mechanics and the this and the that, to make sure that what he's saying is as close to plausible as possible. What makes this book interesting is that once he gets you through that portion, the book jumps ahead 5,000 years to deal with the aftermath and sort of like, what would humanity look like in 5,000 years? Which almost felt discontinuous, because you spend 3/4 of the book getting to know a bunch of characters, and then it jumps 5,000 years and now you're getting to know new characters. So it almost feels like you're starting a second book or a sequel to the first book, which is what sort of brings up my major complaint with this book, which is that it doesn't so much end as it just stops. Upon reflection, I kind of understood how there is technically sort of an arc there, but after spending 600 pages getting to know the few survivors who make it into orbit, then jumping 5,000 years and starting to get to know a whole new group of characters, I kind of wanted to just keep going. You know, he did a really great job at building a world, and now I want to go live in that world for a while, but you don't get to. It sort of ends with this really particular, I wouldn't even call it like an event. I mean, it does end with an event, but it's really more about sort of taking you from one point where something breaks, and then the ending is when something comes back together. It gets the job done, but it didn't really scratch the itch for me. I really wanted to spend more time in this world. So if there would ever be a sequel, I don't know what the impetus for it would be, but I would like to see that book. That being said, I couldn't put it down. Like, I thought it was going to take me more than a month to read it, and I got it done in like 2.5 weeks. 800 and something page book. So that's Seveneves, Neal Stephenson. I'd give it probably about a B, unless reading really detailed descriptions of orbital mechanics is your thing, in which case then it's probably an A. FastCast books. See ya! Hey, thanks for watching the FastCast. If you like what I do here, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can also follow me on Twitter at Mr. J Handle, and check back, because I do this a couple times every week. FastCast!